Hi, we're here to talk today about services purchasing. My name's Wendy Tate. I'm from the University of Tennessee.
Hi, my name is Lisa Elram. I am a professor at Miami University.
So we're going to talk about some research that we've been doing together for the last 10 years. We're trying to understand how purchasing can get meaningful involvement in the area of service spend. So we've been working with focus groups, we've been working with case studies, we've been talking to many organizations to try to understand how they can be involved in this area of spend. Most of us know that service purchasing is very important and is growing in importance. It's a huge opportunity for purchasers to be able to show their value and add value to the bottom line of the organization. So the point is with services is that that term value is really important, and as we talk through this presentation, you'll understand that that's our goal, is to develop, to create value for the internal customer or for your stakeholders. So it's not value, sometimes the value is different from a purchaser's perspective. For example, I might be really concerned about saving costs, and that might not be what's most important for our stakeholders, which they might be more interested in having a more timely process or a more streamlined process. So it sort of depends on your internal stakeholder and being able to work with them. So this conversation is based on a lot of information that's been compiled, but over the past year, in 2012, we actually talked to a number of different organizations who have helped us to sort of streamline what we're going to call a sort of a guideline in how we can better participate in the area of services spend. So we have to focus on what makes purchasing's involvement meaningful. That's the goal. So we're really good at buying goods, buying things, and we always have been really good in that area. And so that's not the opportunity anymore, because we've sort of taken that opportunity and used it up. We've taken our suppliers and talked to them and worked with them as much as we can. However, in the services area, it is very difficult to get meaningful involvement, and for a lot of different reasons. There are lots of different business owners. There are services that are purchased across an organization rather than by one centralized buying unit. We talked to some focus group participants, and they said one of the biggest problems in the services area is the fact that businesses change all the time. So they move from this very centralized, buying everything in one particular location, and then they decide that, well, now we're going to buy everything regionally so we can be close to our customers, and so it's very difficult to get a handle on this particular area of spend. So and actually in all of our discussions, we haven't really come to a consensus on what is the right level of involvement or what is the right involvement for supply management. But again, we're here to really just talk about how we can better frame our questions and how we can better understand what it is that we want to be involved with. So one of the things that we know in the services area, quite different from goods, is it takes a lot of people skills. It takes a lot of the ability to communicate with others that have different goals than you have. It's very taking a customer service orientation rather than, we're all going to go and save money for the organization and we're all going to be in this together. We've got to focus on the value that we add to the customer. So trying to align our goals with the customer, trying to have a clear set of objectives for what we need and what they want. We're trying to figure out how to coordinate the savings. I mean, a lot of people in this area have said that the area of services spend is very thankless. I can go out and I can help them save millions and millions and millions of dollars, and then they're angry because I took that money out of their budget, and I'm angry because I didn't get credit for saving anything. So we have to sort of figure out how to align the goals and also get visibility on the saves. So what gets in the way? That was another thing we've been trying to understand over time. But the biggest thing that gets in the way of our successful or meaningful involvement in services is the budget ownership. So this issue is, if you have an area of spend like the legal spend, well, the typical response is, what do you know about legal, the area of legal at all? So there's conflict from the beginning about, here's purchasing that wants to be involved for one particular reason, whereas here's the legal area that says, this is my budget, and nobody's ever asked me to control my budget before. If I need money, they'll just give money to me. So we don't know. Another problem that we found is we don't even know what we're spending money on. There are so many people doing the buying. So we look at, we need to understand what exactly this area of spend is. We talked to a company that said, one of the biggest problems is that purchasers don't even know how to start the conversation with the budget owners. So they brought in somebody that was coaching them on how to begin these conversations and how to ensure that they could go to the budget owners and understand what it was that they needed and help them to specify the needs. So what facilitates involvement, the two main things that we've seen: economic problems. Whenever we have to save money, then purchasing is the first person that they come to, and it just so happens that services are an area that it'll be easier than in goods to save that money. And the other thing is the knowledge of the C-suite. The people at the top levels of the company are often coming to the budget owners and saying, look, you need to be involved with this group because they've done really good things for the other part of the organization. Probably the third thing that really helps facilitate this involvement are developing and refining metrics and helping everybody to understand what the goal is for the organization. So over all of these discussions with companies, over all of the talks with a number of different practitioners, we came up with this services matrix. And the services matrix was, it's just a guideline. It's a way to sort of understand what it takes to get the more meaningful involvement, keeping in mind that it's different for every company, and sometimes it's different for every area of spend. So I'm going to turn it over to Lisa, and she can talk a little bit about the matrix and how it actually was developed.
Thanks. So one of the things I'd like to add to what Wendy said is it's so important when supply management gets involved in services, especially where they haven't been involved before, is to always keep that value in mind. So what is the value that the customer is really looking for? And about a year ago or so, I had Dave Nelson, who's a retired former Chief Procurement Officer of Honda of America, Deere, and Delphi. He came in and spoke to about 200 of my students at Miami, and I asked him the question, if you could have done one thing differently in your career, Dave, that you think would have made a really big difference, what would that be? And he said, probably the one thing I would do differently is to be more service-oriented towards the internal customer. And I think that's a really important mantra in supply management, but I think it's even more important when you're dealing with services, because people do take services personally. As Wendy mentioned, we developed a matrix, and this 2x2 matrix, we consider how complex is the item, the service that is being purchased. And the complexity is on a number of dimensions. It can be anything from how politically sensitive it is, it can be how many people are involved, it can be the tightness of the specifications or the complexity of the specifications. So anything that really makes it kind of a sticky issue that can lead to complexity. The ongoing value is the other dimension of the matrix, and the ongoing value deals with not just today, it's not just how much money we spend, but what is the impact that it has on the company. So it can be related to new products, customer interface, access to new markets, but something that really could have value to the company. So the first quadrant that we look at is the low complexity, low ongoing value. And in this situation, what we find is purchasing is readily able to take on the role of primary owner. So these are things that they might be spending a fair amount of money perhaps, but they're things that people don't feel a strong commitment to. They're not really politically charged. And the couple things that we've seen that fit into this area tends to be facilities management, So that's one that oftentimes people don't really want to deal with. And another one of the things that fits into this category is security. So probably for a lot of companies, travel might even fit in here. So these are areas that purchasing really is the primary interface with supplier. They do everything from selection, management, assessment, just like they would for a more traditional purchase of materials or components. Now the next category, we're moving up the matrix, so we're looking at things that are more complex, but they don't have a lot of value added. This category we call guidance, or this is where purchasing acts as a guide. So these are things that maybe they're important to one particular person who needs them. So really specialized consulting services. Some maybe piece of equipment that somebody needs to run a test, but you're not going to be buying over and over again. Usually these are things that the company spends, depending on the size of the company, maybe less than $100,000 on. So the person who needs the item, they're definitely the expert in terms of what they need, and you're probably not going to save that much money by going out for bid or for really searching the market. So here, the value that purchasing adds is to provide some guidance and really develop a process. Here's how you should do this. And most of the time, that can be something as simple as providing contract templates to keep the company's liability limited and to make sure that the supplier actually delivers whatever service they say they're going to deliver. So that one is a lot about really protecting the company and making sure that you get what you're paying for, more so than saving money or really improving processes. Now the next category is probably the stickiest category for a lot of people. That is the category of consultant. And these are often the sacred cows in the company. So these are things that are sort of untouchable. Tends to be a fair amount of money, or at least ongoing value, so some sort of an investment, and also tends to be complexity in terms of either resources involved, in terms of maybe specifications, or it could just be really politically charged. So things that fit in here, oftentimes it's advertising. You know, if you work for a consumer products company, the people in marketing feel that they really should have primary control over advertising, and perhaps rightly so. Research is another area. If it's a company that's doing some outsourcing of their research and development, oftentimes if you spend a lot of money on something like legal services, that might fit into this category. So here, usually supply management, if they want to get meaningfully involved, they at least have to begin to approach it from the standpoint that we will help you to improve what you're doing. We know this is your budget. We don't want to take that away from you. But we think we can help you spend, quote, your money better. So really not take any sort of a control, but really provide a lot of advice, help them see different options, help them look at their specifications, that type of thing. So again, this is a really sticky one, so you have to be very, very sensitive to this. And then the fourth category is the process owner category. And that is one that tends to have a fair amount of ongoing value, perhaps because it's got some customer impact, or perhaps because you actually spend a fair amount of money there. But there's a lot of people in the company involved right now that use that item, and none of them are that politically charged in terms of that they really feel they need to have control. It's oftentimes, these are things that can be sort of a pain to manage, so people might actually like to have you come in and help manage it, but they still need to sort of own that supplier relationship, the users or the stakeholders. So examples of things we see that fit into that category, one is contingent labor or temporary labor. So here you might have a situation where the company has 20 contracts with the exact same temporary service provider, because everybody's kind of doing their own thing. So supply management can come in and really help evaluate those contracts, find out what you need, get the best contract in place, good prices, good protection, good service guarantees, and kind of do the whole process and let the people who actually use the service still be involved with the supplier on a day-to-day basis. We've also found that call centers can fit in here. So in one particular company that we've researched, they were actually competing unwittingly against each other for the exact same call center provider services. And that was actually driving their company's prices up. And it wasn't from outside, but it was actually the business units competing against each other for the exact same call center services. So in some ways that was a little amusing, but it was very easy then to drive home the value that supply management involvement could have in a situation like that. So as Wendy mentioned, these were really developed to help provide guidance. These are different ways that supply management can add value to different types of situations. It's going to vary among different companies depending on what your strategy is. It depends on how much power you have in purchasing. It depends on how much influence top management is willing to assert on the process owners. But we have found, what we've seen over time by looking at a lot of companies, is that these are very, very effective ways for supply management to get engaged and to add value and to have the stakeholders, to have the budget owners actually appreciate what you're doing so it doesn't end up in sort of a confrontational situation. So Wendy, do you have anything that you would like to add to that?
Well, so just in closing, the only way that value can be described or defined is by that internal customer, by the person that you're working with or working for in some particular instances. We've also seen, and we sort of don't like to talk about this as much, but we do have some people that are outliers that believe that purchasing should really take over and just control all of the areas of spend in services and in goods. And those people, I think, are having a little bit more of a difficult time getting that buy-in. I know they're having a more difficult time getting that buy-in from the internal customer, because the internal customer has their own definition of what value is. So you just have to understand that and be able to communicate.
And not try. I think it's important in most cultures that we've observed to not try to force your way in, but to do what works best for that customer, to show that you appreciate what it is that the customer values. And one real lesson that a lot of people in supply management have had to learn is that a lot of times these customers, the money is not important to them. They have their budget and they intend to spend it, and they have figured out how to spend it. And if you save them money, it doesn't matter to them. The money might get taken away. So the key is what is it that customer wants? Again, value. I know we've kind of beat that to death, yeah, but that's what it's all about. It's all about value. So, okay. Thanks. Have a good day.